You don't lack motivation. You lack discipline. Motivation feels powerful, but it's also the reason most people fail. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Meet Daniel, 24 years old. He has big dreams, endless plans, and more ambition than most. Every Monday, he wakes up fired up, ready to conquer the world. By Thursday, that energy is gone. In the next few minutes, you're going to see why discipline, not motivation, is the real secret behind success, and how one small shift can change everything in his life and yours.
Meet Daniel, 24 years old, full of dreams, big goals, and plans that never seem to last. He's not lazy. He actually wants more out of life. Every week he tells himself, this time will be different. And for a moment, it is. He wakes up early, full of energy and focus. He starts working, pushing, doing everything right. Day 1 feels perfect. Day 2, he's still going strong. Then something shifts. He wakes up tired. The excitement fades. That fire he felt just days ago disappears. And suddenly, everything feels harder. The work, the effort, even getting started. So he tells himself, maybe I just need a break. I'll start again tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into another missed opportunity. Deep down, he feels it, that quiet frustration, that guilt, that voice in his head asking, what's wrong with me? He keeps waiting to feel ready, but that feeling never stays. And every time he stops, he makes the same promise, I'll start again tomorrow. But one day, Daniel discovered something that changed everything, something most people ignore. And it had nothing to do with motivation.
Daniel started noticing something he couldn't ignore. People around him were moving forward. Friends were building businesses, learning skills, making progress. Meanwhile, he felt like he was standing still, watching life happen from the sidelines. It didn't make sense to him. He knew he was capable. He had ideas, goals, and ambition. So he did what most people do. He searched for motivation. He watched videos, read quotes, filled his mind with hype and inspiration. And every time he did, it worked, for a while. He would feel that rush again, that energy, that belief that this time is different. And he would start strong, putting in the effort, staying focused, doing everything he thought successful people did. But the pattern never changed. After a few days, sometimes a week, the energy would fade, the excitement would disappear, and just like that, he would stop. Not completely, but enough to fall back into the same cycle. Short bursts of action, followed by long periods of doing nothing. At first, he told himself it was normal, that he just needed the right motivation, the right moment, the right mindset. But deep down, he knew something wasn't right. Because weeks started turning into months, and nothing was changing. Same goals, same plans, same frustration. The only thing growing was the gap between where he was and where he wanted to be. One day, after another cycle of starting and stopping, Daniel came across something different. It wasn't loud, it wasn't hyped. It was simple, almost uncomfortable to hear. Stop relying on motivation. Build discipline. At first, it didn't hit him. It sounded too basic, too obvious. But the more he thought about it, the more it started to make sense. He looked at his own life and realized something clear. Every time he relied on motivation, he became inconsistent. He worked only when he felt like it. He showed up only when it was easy. And then he looked at the people who were actually making progress. They weren't waiting to feel ready. They weren't chasing motivation. They were showing up every day. Disciplined people didn't rely on feelings. They relied on habits, on systems, on decisions that didn't change based on mood. That was the difference. Motivated people start fast, but stop often. Disciplined people start slow, but never stop. And in that moment, something shifted inside him. For the first time, he stopped asking himself, do I feel like it? and started asking a different question. Will I do it anyway?
That was the moment everything became clear for Daniel. He finally understood the real problem. It wasn't that he lacked ambition. It wasn't that he wasn't capable. He had been relying on something that was never designed to last: motivation. Because motivation is a feeling, and feelings change. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you don't even feel like trying. And if your progress depends on how you feel, then your progress will always be inconsistent. That's when it hit him. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Motivation is like a spark. It can ignite something quickly, make you feel powerful for a moment, but it fades just as fast. Discipline, on the other hand, is the engine. It keeps you moving long after the spark is gone. Motivation might get you started, but discipline is what carries you all the way through. And for the first time, Daniel saw the truth he had been avoiding. Feelings are unreliable. Systems are not. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll stop the moment it gets hard. But if you build a system, something you follow no matter how you feel, you remove the need to rely on motivation at all. That's what separates people who dream from people who actually achieve. Winners don't wait to feel ready. They act anyway, even when it's hard, even when they're tired, even when they don't feel like it, because they understand something most people don't. Success isn't built on motivation, it's built on discipline.
Now that Daniel understood the difference, everything started to change, but not in the way he expected. There was no sudden burst of energy, no magical feeling of motivation. Instead, there was a decision, a quiet, firm decision to stop negotiating with himself, because that was his first lesson. Discipline is a decision, not a mood. He realized that every time he said, "I'll do it later," or "I don't feel like it," he was negotiating with his goals and losing. So he made a rule: no more negotiations. If it needed to be done, he would do it, whether he felt like it or not, because goals don't care about your mood. And for the first time, he started showing up even on the days he didn't feel ready. That's where the shift began. Then he learned something even more powerful. He didn't need to do everything at once. He just needed to do something every day. Small actions compound. At first, it felt almost too simple to matter. 1 hour of focused work, a small step forward, a little progress. But day by day, those small actions started stacking up. 1% improvement each day didn't feel like much in the moment, but over time, it became something massive. This is where most people fail. They underestimate small progress because it doesn't look impressive at the start. But what they don't see is what it becomes later. And that led him to the next lesson. Consistency beats intensity. Before, Daniel would go all in for a few days. Long hours, extreme effort, pushing himself hard, and then burn out. Now, he focused on showing up daily. Not perfectly, not intensely, but consistently. Because it's not about doing a lot once, it's about doing something every single day. That's what creates real progress. Read that again. Not what you do occasionally, but what you do repeatedly is what shapes your life. And finally, he understood the part most people try to avoid. Success is built in boring routines. Not in big moments, not in sudden breakthroughs, but in the quiet, repetitive actions no one applauds. Waking up early, doing the work, staying focused, repeating it again and again. It's not exciting, it's not glamorous, but that's exactly why it works. Because most people quit when things feel boring. They chase excitement instead of discipline. But Daniel didn't this time. He embraced the repetition. And that's when his life slowly, quietly started to change. Daniel started to see why he and so many others kept failing. It wasn't lack of talent. It wasn't lack of ambition. It was something far simpler and far more powerful. People fail because they wait for motivation. They wait for the perfect moment, the right feeling, the spark to get started. And when it doesn't come, they avoid discomfort.
They postpone action. They quit before progress even begins. That's the truth most people refuse to face. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. It's not the big bursts of effort that define success. It's the small, repeated choices you make when you don't feel like doing it. Your future is built by what you do when you don't feel like it. That's the difference between those who dream and those who achieve.
At this point, Daniel stopped overthinking and started focusing on what actually works. Not big plans, not perfect timing, just simple actions he could repeat every day. Because discipline isn't built in one big moment, it's built in small, daily choices. So he started with something almost anyone would ignore. Step 1. Start small. Not big, not overwhelming, small. He gave himself a simple rule. Just begin. Even if it was for 2 minutes. Because starting is the hardest part. And when something feels too big, your mind resists it. But when it's small, almost effortless, you remove that resistance. Make it too easy to fail. Because once you start, you'll often keep going. And even if you don't, you've already won. You showed up. That's how discipline begins. Then he took it one step further. Step 2. Build a system. He stopped relying on random bursts of effort and created a fixed routine. A specific time, a specific task. No guessing, no debating. Because when you rely on motivation, you ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? But when you have a system, the question disappears. You just follow the plan. Fixed routine will always beat random effort, every single time. And finally, the most important step. Step 3. Show up no matter what. Not just on the good days when everything feels easy, but especially on the bad days. The days when you're tired, when you don't feel like it, when your mind is telling you to skip. Because those are the days that define you. Bad days count more than good days. Anyone can work when they feel motivated, but real growth happens when you act in spite of how you feel. That's the moment discipline is built. And over time, Daniel realized something powerful. Discipline grows every time you act without feeling like it. Not in comfort, but in resistance. That's where the real change begins. Now, imagine Daniel's life before this shift. Without discipline, he was stuck in a cycle. Frustration, guilt, and endless starting over moments. Every day felt heavier, every goal farther away, every promise to himself broken. The same patterns repeated, leaving him questioning if he'd ever truly get ahead. But with discipline, everything changed. Progress became visible. Confidence grew with each small step. He felt in control of his time, his actions, and ultimately, his life. Goals that once felt impossible now became milestones on his daily journey. One path leads to regret. The other leads to growth. And the choice is always yours. If this message hit you, don't ignore it. Comment below, I choose discipline, if you're ready to take control of your life. Subscribe for more stories that will challenge you, inspire you, and push you to become your best self. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start becoming unstoppable today.